Hello everyone and welcome for another video of Love and Wargames. In this video we are unboxing and then making the tactical review of the Khartoum Battlefleet set for the Sultanate for Dystopian Wars. I'm very excited to see what's inside because I love the Egyptians. It's probably one of my favorite faction in the dystopian age, right up there with the French. And I mean, just look at those ships, how beautiful they are. So we're going to have a look at what is inside. For those that don't know, like there are a few parts in the video that you can skip directly to the part that interests you through the timestamps. So first we're gonna have a look at the sprues, the resin model, everything that you can see there. Then we're gonna make the tactical review of each and every ship in the Battlefleet and all the variants. And as you can see, there are quite a few actually. So we'll deep dive in this. Then how to expand from there, and at the very end, like we'll just make sure, is it a good box or not? As always, all the YouTube things, the thumbs up, the comments, the subscription, everything helps the channel very much. If you want this box, it's also minus 10% on my hobby place, and if you choose us in the basket, we get like 3%, something like this, and it really helps, so thank you if you do that. And without further ado, let's open the box. So it is one of the intermediate size box for Dystopian Wars, like basically one of the smallest one except the squadron unit. So we are only getting 2 sprues and a flagship, if it's as usual. So we are of course getting this that we get all the time to say, hey, remember that Dystopian Wars is linked with Armored Clash. So if you don't know Armored Clash, we have quite a few videos now on the channel about it, and of course we're gonna make battle reports. Dystopian Wars, if you know us, you know Dystopian Wars for sure. And all right, we're gonna keep the resin ship for later, of course. We have some base to make the SRS tokens, which are these little scarab guys that we love. And yeah, we have exactly 2 sprues. I'm gonna show one of them so you can see it well. And okay, here is indeed the sprue. So it is something we knew already. I will try to zoom in so you can see a bit better. And it is exactly the same Frontline sprue that we know and love for the Egyptians. We have this hull for the Mass 2. So in each sprue you can make one single Mass 2 ship. We're gonna take a look in Tactica what they are and how you can play them. Some of them are better than others. And you can also make 2 of the Mass 1s that you can see here. There, let me flip it around. And yeah, this is also a very, like those are very, very good. And you want as many of them as you can. You get some little scarabs that you can put around. And this is very, very efficient. Like, I'm not sure they're very efficient, okay, in terms of points, but they are very powerful, that's for sure. And you get a token of those little scarab drones. Lovely. By luck, I still have my Egyptian forces because I really love those guys. So here you can see once they are painted how you can make them look. Of course, they have the usual Praetorian Guard color scheme, white, gold, and purple. This is, as you can see, one of the Mass 2 that you can build. This is the Sabah, the artillery one. And yeah, this guy is, like, I just love the design. Nothing else to say except, damn, I love Egyptian. I just wish they were a little bit stronger in games, I have to admit. They got a little buff, like buff after buff, and they're now just about average. What is really, really bad is the Turkish aerials, but we will not talk about them now. And these are the Mass ones that we were talking about. And those guys are really efficient. They're like very glass cannons. They can die extremely fast, but if they get in the right range, they just obliterate the enemy. Of course, the main thing that everybody wants to see is this little Khartoum. How does it actually look like? And we can even make a little size comparison. Okay, so we got a main hull. All right. We also have this magnetic bombard, the core magnetic bombard that we can see there. And those, I guess it's to put, I don't know what actually. And the command center. All right. With a little, is that a shield generator or is it a command center? This. Oh, I wonder if it's gonna have an internal shield generator. That would make it good. So there are a few variants that you can have. You can nearly just clip it, this little guy, right here. Yeah, you're gonna put main cannons in the front. The bombard right here if you need to. And those little clips, okay, they are for the smaller gun battery. So you clip this here, and then you're gonna have just the space to put a little small gun battery or heat lancet, whichever you want. All right. I really love that this guy really looks like the Mass 2 cruisers, but bigger. Because when we compare it, I'm sure I have it. Yeah, when we compare it to the previous flagship of the Egyptians, which is glorious, don't get me wrong, but this he had a very specific design. This little, I think this is the tennis, yeah, the tennis configuration. It is magnetized, so you can just choose whichever you want, which is what I recommend you to do. And while the tennis was beautiful, I very much prefer this because it really looks like the big brother. Let me put them on the ground. And all right, as you can see, it really makes, like, it does look like it belongs in the Egyptian fleet. Indeed, I was mistaken. It's not a shield generator, it's just a little command center. So we'll see how it goes, but I love this guy has just one little fan. Those guys have two and this guy has four. That makes a lot of sense. And yeah, it looks brilliant. I will put the tennis next. This way you can really have this family picture with these giant fans. Yeah, Egyptians are for sure one of my favorite force, and they would look great also on a desert like sand battle mat because they are skimmers and they look like they are made to just skim over the surface of the desert. Kind of like there was a skimmer that really looked like this one, actually. I just realized in Lost Planet 3, Lost Planet 2, and there was a whole scene when you needed to board it. If you guys remember Lost Planet 2, write me in the comment. That was a great game. Anyway, this is what we can say about the miniatures themselves. It's quite short, but now let's have a look, and this is what will interest you probably, how to play each and every one of them. We'll start, of course, with the Khartoum and its variants, but we'll also tell you about what changed, about the Mass 2s and the Mass 1s.
Okay, we start now the second half of the video, the longer half of the video, and we're going to take a look at all the build options you can get with the Khartoum Battlefleet set. It's basically, as we said, exactly the same build options as the Abydos, except you get 2 Frontline Sprues instead of 4, and you get the Khartoum instead of the Abydos. So we'll take a look at this, but first let's have a little reminder of how the Sultanate actually plays. And the Sultanate is the movement faction. They have portals to teleport, come out of reserve, they can go around very fast, their ships are usually the fastest and they're rewarded for going fast, but they're usually more fragile. That is especially true of the Turkish forces, but the Egyptians as well, like they're quite tougher, but they are fragile for their point cost, let's say it like this. Egyptians got quite a boost one after the other, and they are getting there. They started very bad, like they were not strong enough, and now they are getting there. I won't talk about the Turkish, it's not the point of the video right here. But just know that if you play Egyptian and Sultan in general, you will need to make sure that you have the first strike on your opponent. With the Egyptians, it means that since you are skimming, you hide behind islands and you wait until your opponent gets close to then just jump and fly over the island, and just obliterate the enemy before he can fight back. That is kind of, if you play like a war game like 40k, it's kind of like hiding behind a wall where you cannot be shot and then going out for a charge or something. It's going to play somewhat similarly. If you play on an open sea terrain, Egyptians are going to be very much in difficulty because they pay in their point cost this skimming capacity. We know all skimmers are more expensive than normal surface ships because they have a few rules for ignoring ground terrain, etc. And of course they need to make use of those rules if they want to compete. Overall, the Egyptians are though quite a good faction. I would say in terms of power level or accessibility for beginners, they are in the middle range. Turkish are harder to play. Order are also quite elite, sometimes tricky, but there you have much less fleet and they're just very strong, so that works. Egyptians have very cool ships, very beautiful ships, and they are very fun to play. Just be careful to use them correctly. So as we've said, you have the Khartoum, the ship in resin, and 2 Sprues, so you will have 2 cruisers, 2 destroyers, and 2 of those Scarab SRS tokens. You will also have quite a few weapons, some Scarabs to put on your ships, because you will have the option, we'll talk about it. And of course, as always, try not to glue, to magnetize, or most of the time, you don't even need to magnetize the weapons, except maybe the small one. You can just use gravity to make them hold on your ships. One thing to say as well is that 54 years is quite a reasonable price. I mean, we know that Dystopian Wars is not a very expensive game, and I mean 50 euros for this big resin piece and all the plastic sprues that you can get, like it's good. And of course, you have minus 10% if you go on my place, and you can choose Love and Wargames in the basket, and then you can give us back, I think 3 or 5%, something like this. And thank you if you do this. Alright, let's start the analysis with the Kadesh Barrage Battleskimmer. So we can see a little bit the base that what is going to be for all the 3 versions of the Khartoum. So mass 3, okay. Speed 5, turn 4, so it's like not that slow, and it's a skimming, but depending on the size of the island, it's gonna be like 8 inches. It might not be enough because you're a very, very long ship. It might not be enough to be able to cross the island in one time. So be very careful about that. If you want to cross the island, there is a chance that you will not have the movement to do that. But that doesn't matter that much because the Kadesh, as the name kinda suggests, is a long-range shooting ship. 245 points, okay, you have armor 8, very good, we were expecting worse. Citadel 15, it's not bad either, it's near battleship, like except the Citadel, which is a bit lower, it's good stat line. You have 8 hull points in the battle ready, 4 in crippled. I mean, that's not terrible, that's not terrible. You also have armored decking, which gives you more defenses against aerial weapons, which is good because at long range, it's either extreme range torpedoes that can attack you or rocket barrages, and you are quite resilient against a rocket and basically all aerial weapons, very good. You're agile as well, which on a mass 3 ship is unusual and useful. It means you don't need to make your drift of 3. You can start turning from even during your drift. Quite convenient actually. Well, I'm not sure it's going to change the game, but it's going to be very pleasant to play. Now, what weapons do you have? As you can see, you have 2 main weapons here. Here they show rockets, and I'm not sure that is a good idea to put heavy rocket batteries. You should keep heavy gun batteries right there. And also keep here, you can see it's rockets, but again, full gun batteries. And why do I say this? Because you have focused fire gunnery, which means that when you get within 20 inches, you're going to have 9 and 4, 13, plus 6, you're going to have 19 dices, plus 2, you're going to have 21 dices rerolling blanks with your gunnery weapons, which is not bad for a ship that is mostly in a way a shooting ship. So it really has some bite if your opponent comes trying to come and pick you up, and you're not very fragile. So really good so far. What else it has? It has especially this, which is a salvo missile silo, which is this thing, the same weapon that we had on the Sabah, I think it was the name. We'll see it a bit later, which was already the best cruiser for the Egyptians, and this ship has it as well, so good point for it, and it's a great weapon. It has extreme range. It cannot shoot at point blank, be careful with that, but at extreme range you have 12 dices aerial and blast. Aerial does mean that the enemy can use its ADV, but if you target a small ship, you can still only count the ADV of your target, and then everybody around is going to get the result. And 12 dices bombardment, so if you shoot at surface or ground units, you're going to reroll blanks. 12 dice rolling blanks. I mean, there is a world in which you obliterate an entire squadron of mass 1s with this every turn. It doesn't have limited munitions or anything. Like, I mean, this is a really threatening weapon, and I love it because just one guy, okay, you can have more of course, but just the Kadesh will force your opponent not to pack his mass 1. Because there is a chance to one-shot them, all of them, with this extreme range blast weapon. There is a meta where people spam frigates, because if you don't have blast weapons, it's hard to deal with them. But if, like, with weapons such as the Kadesh, you can really interdict, like forbid the opponent to play with his frigates how he wants to. And if you play with enough terrain, it can really start to be very annoying. So a really good weapon, and it's not over yet. You also have Spotter, which means that if there is some SRS token on your target, you can either reroll blanks. If, for example, you shoot on aerial units with your bombardment weapon, so you can still gain reroll of the blanks, or any like other targets for which you would not have this reroll. But also you can remove the benefit of being obscured. So your enemy has a shroud, your enemy is hidden, doesn't matter. You will shoot at full potential and keep your explosive dice. That is really good. That is really good. Honestly, for 245 points, for now, we are very happy with this. You can remove one weapon, but I wouldn't recommend to do this. You can upgrade to a heavy rocket. I, again, would not recommend this. The one thing you could do is to replace those heavy gun batteries with particle beamers, and that is a lot. You can even replace the gun batteries to the rear with etheric lances, but it's going to be plus 10 and then plus 4, plus 24 points. It starts to be a lot. It starts to be really a lot. If you do this, it's not a terrible idea, and I will tell you why. Because particle beamers are very powerful even at long range. And when you start to have two particle beamers, it means at long range, you're going to have those two very powerful weapons with the sustain, plus 2 dice, rerolling blanks, plus the salvo missile silo. And then if you get at closing range within 20 inches, you have the two aetheric lances that can join the party. That's a lot of firepower, but it puts you really up there in terms of price, and then you become much more of a glass cannon. And if you can get 1 or 2 turns of shooting at full potential with this, good, you made your points back because you really killed 1 or 2 units with this. But if your enemy has a lot of SRS tokens, for example, even with armored decking, like, you will still suffer a lot. And if the enemy can shoot you down one way or another, with a Colossus early turn 2, or with indeed SRS token end of turn 1, and can sink you out outright, well, it's like 24 points that you invested on the ship and that you did not get to get your benefit from. So not a terrible idea, but be careful with this. And if you are really insane and you want to make it even more expensive, you can get some Hepri SRS token. And yeah, we'll put now, for once and for all, the Hepri rules here, because it was not elsewhere. The Hepri are basically SRS token that you can add on your ship, and it gives you capacity 3/1. In theory, it's good, especially when you're like, but yeah, I have spotter as well. Of course, I want to put my own SRS token to then shoot on the target. But be careful, those SRS are not sent at 40 inches at all. They're sent at 20 inches. And let's remember that it's during your special operation phase, which means that you will not be able to benefit from this until you're basically in a knife fight with your opponent. And your salvo missile silo cannot be used at point blank. So it means you really need to be with between 10 and 20 inches to be able to send your SRS token. Maybe make sure your turn with your agile to not get within 10 inches and not be able to use your salvo missile silo outright. And it's a lot of risk for little reward, I would say. Replis don't have the range to combo well with the Kadesh, unfortunately. Yes, they are efficient. If you can put all 3 of those, it's going to be 9 dices with Devastating and Homing and Piercing. It's not terrible for 25 points, but yeah, I cannot recommend you to do this. Like, it doesn't go with what the Kadesh wants to do. The Kadesh wants to benefit from SRS, but it cannot use its own SRS for its support, except in very small margins, and yeah, don't buy this. We then go to the namesake of the ship, of the box, the Khartoum Heavy Battleskimmer. And this guy, as you can see, it trades its salvo missile with the Ka, I'm not sure how to pronounce this, magnetic bombard. So it's basically the same thing, like the same disposition, 2 small weapons, 2 big weapons, okay, very good. Heavy broadsides as well, I didn't say, but obviously. It has Citadel 16 compared to the other guy, so a little bit higher. So this is really starts to be like battleship class. It does not have focused fire gunnery, which means that you don't feel as bad putting, for example, a shroud generator or a mirage generator or this kind of thing to replace one of the main weapons. You're still going to have one big cannon at 9 +3/+3 if you get at the good range. Okay. And when you start to be 8/16, if you start to put a shroud or even other defensive generators, you start to have a ship that can be the tank for the rest of your Egyptian fleets. Very happy with that. The Ka, we'll pronounce it Ka, let's say. Magnetic Bombard is also an extreme range weapon. It does not have either blast, which is very sad, either aerial, which is good because it means it cannot get cancelled by ADV. And it has a good stat line, 11, magnetic, so you will ignore, I think you ignore Shroud like obscured outright. And anyway, you are indirect and you ignore obscured, it's written right there on top of magnetic, so it's great. You will put navigation lock, amazing, and you will have 11 +2 because you have focused fire magnetic, so 13 dices, extreme range, ignoring obscured magnetic, rerolling blanks. Good weapon, good weapon. I mean, there's not many people that will enjoy this. I mean, even battleships with shroud and everything, let's say you shoot at an Imperium ship, even those will be like, okay, damn, I might get my Citadel breached by a single shot of this Ka magnetic bombard. Like, damn. It also has command codes, and it's right there. It means that you can reroll, it's like a full reroll once per turn, like once per round, within 15 inches. Try to remember this because in our meta we usually forget that, oh yeah, right, I have this rule, but it can really save yourself. And if anything, use it on yourself. Like the Car Magnetic Bombard is a good weapon. Maybe keep this reroll for yourself. And remember, you need to declare command codes before you start to roll, like rolling blanks or rolling explosives, etc. It's like you make your first roll, it's terrible. You can say, okay, I cancel everything and I roll again. So overall, a good ship, exactly the same point, 245. They have different role. The Kadesh was more like anti-mass one with a blast, like this is amazing, and with a good firepower also against enemy ships at closing range with all the gunnery weapons that it can get. The Khartoum is more like a command vessel. It will be a little bit more front and center, leading the fleet. Good magnetic bombard, yes, but also more resilient. You are very happy to put a generator to make it tougher, and you're also very happy to have your command codes. Overall, well, let's check the third version and then I will tell you which ones I prefer, because the last one is the Osiris Battleskimmer. And the first thing you'll notice with the Osiris is that it's cheaper, 15 points cheaper, okay, and it doesn't have any of the big weapons, but it's because there is some invisible heavy torpedo salvo. And that's not so bad because it's not a crazy specific weapon, but you still have 11 dices, submerged, so ignoring shields and everything, torpedo, so you trigger SDV, extreme range. I mean, it's not such a reduction of firepower. Doesn't have command code, doesn't have blast weapons, it's just a good battle skimmer. You have those two heavy gun batteries, two smaller gun batteries, heavy broadside steel, 8/15, okay, resilient as well, fine. The two things that it has giant slayers, which means that when you shoot at something that is mass 3 or higher, you reroll blanks. Very good, but it really triggers you into what you want to shoot. And more interesting, you have Vanguard. Vanguard, which means that you can move up to 5 inches after the reshuffling of deceptive deployment, which is good. It's much more aggressive, thus, and it makes me want to say that for this guy specifically, you can consider buying the Happy. I still think that it's quite expensive for what it does, the Happies, and it's the same thing for the Turkish aerials. Like you can buy some SRS for those, or for the cruisers of the Egyptians, we'll see. I still think it is expensive, but if you have to buy it for one ship, it's going to be the Osiris. It's not a terrible idea for the Khartoum either, but this guy with Vanguard, you can start to put some real threat, maybe not turn 1, but early turn 2 for sure. And there are some other ships, spoiler, for the mass 2 of the Egyptians, and even the mass 1s, that can have Vanguard, which means that you can really put a lot of pressure turn 1 on your opponent with a lot of movement, and that can really be a good idea. Not much more to say except this. It's a good ship. It has nothing fancy, like it has the usual gun options. If you don't know what to build and you don't have many points and everything, it's very fine to buy the Osiris. If you remember that it does have heavy torpedo salvo, so try to use it turn 1 for sure. But it's good, it's tough, it's a good ship. It's what the Egyptians were needing. Between the three, I have to say my heart goes to the Kadesh, because it really helps you to have this threat. If you don't have any Sabah, Kadesh for sure. Otherwise, if I have like 3 Sabah, which is what I have in my collection, and you already have these aerial blast weapons, then I would go on the Kadesh, because this magnetic bombard is just very good against enemy ships, like very tough battleships. And then otherwise the Osiris is fine as well. It also has giant slayers against very tough enemy ships. Heavy torpedo salvos also to go under the shroud. I mean, there is no bad answer, and it depends on your, again, depends on your list, depends on especially the cruisers that you have, but you will not make a mistake with either of those. They are quite similar in their efficiency, let's say, but Kadesh all the way to the back, Khartoum center commanding your ships and being a tank, and Osiris just being basically a big cruiser, not a determining role. Like it's not gonna turn the game by itself, but it's good and it can handle very well the enemy battle cruisers. If you see an enemy Oriflamme or an Anatolia or something like this, it can really fight him back very efficiently. Even a Borodino, actually, I think. And now we go for the mass 2s. We will start with the Sobek. Well, I really like the Sobek because they are cheap. They're still the cheapest, even though other mass 2s have reduced their points. And I love them because they are landing vessels. We now have the rules for landing troops, and having a tough and landing vessel for 118 points. So it's not super cheap, but it's armor 6, citadel 13, quite good with armored decking as well. Skimming, so you can hide behind islands like everything. ADV 5, SDV 5, quite a good SDV as well. 4/4, okay, and it's good. Plus, it's mine layer, so every single unit that you will get from those guys, it's going to be an extra mine, and that's really good to try to hold off your opponent while you drop your troops. I really like this little guy. Plus, it has focused fire gunnery. I mean, it has everything for itself. So this main cannon will be 9 dices, plus 3, 15 dices, plus 2, it's going to be 17 dices rerolling blanks. I mean, 17 rerolling blanks. It's not laughable firepower. For 118 points, it's neither a terrible glass cannon, but I mean, it does everything good. You will not make a mistake buying this guy. And you can see that for 12 points, so half of what you pay for the Khartoum, for example, you can get 2/1 reprise. So for half the price, you will lose 33% while you're battle ready, and you have the same capacity when you're crippled. But you are on a more fragile platform. Yes, that is absolutely true. But since you are a landing vessel, you will probably want to just charge down the middle of the map and drop your troops. So if there is one ship for which I think it's a very good idea to buy the reprise upgrade for 12 points, it does bring you up to 130, but I would say it's the Sobek. Just rush to the island, hide behind an island, because that's what you want to do. You want to go on the landing zone. Probably, since you will be stuck next to the island, you will be kind of like invisible, or at least a little bit protected. And then, yeah, next turn you do drop your ships. And if you have 3 of those Sobeks, it's going to be 6 SRS tokens of reprise. That's going to be 18 dices, devastating or mean piercing. Starts to be worth the 36 points that you will invest in this. You understand me, like I really like this ship, it has everything. Landing vessel is very good, mine layer, focus fire, it's tough. I mean, nothing bad to say about this guy at all. Then we go to the Mesektet Strike Skimmer, 120 points, so quite close, quite close. It does not have the heavy gun battery, it does not have focused fire, and it has like 3 small gun batteries, which means it really will want to get close to use its firepower of the gun batteries. It has gun runner, so if you have a lot of those, you can gain up to +3. And if you go all the way straight, you can be very fast. Okay, sure. It has Vanguard as well. Oh, interesting. And I think they understood that it's very good to have Vanguard and reprise because it's +15 points per model to get the same capacity of reprise. Is it a typo? I don't think so. And it's a bit sad. It's a bit sad. It can get a lot of escort tokens. Sure, fine. But Vanguard does help it because it wants to be very close, very fast, and to move forward with Gunrunner to be in the middle of the table, turn 1, shooting with all the gun batteries, which is still like, it's going to be 11 dices per ship. Sabah, it's okay. Plus the heavy torpedo salvo, which is 11 dices at extreme range, and again, it's okay. Not my favorite. I mean, I love that it has Vanguard. Unfortunately, it cannot have a Mirage generator. I love that it has Vanguard and Gunrunner, which really gives it a feeling of wanting to go down. But for 120 points, I'm a bit sad that it has heavy torpedo salvo because it kind of goes against the idea of just charging down and hiding until you are point blank. If it didn't have heavy torpedo salvo, like just a basic torpedo salvo, or even better, a micro torpedo salvo, that would be great. And heavy broadsides, that would be another discussion entirely, because then it really knows what it wants to do. And while the previous ship did a little bit of everything, like mines and landing and shooting and being tough, all at once good, this guy has contradictory feelings. It wants to be at point blank to charge down with Gunrunner and Vanguard and its short range weapons, but at the same time it has its heavy torpedo salvo that says like stay all the way in the back. And sometimes it's okay like with the Chinese ships that have heavy torpedo and heavy broadsides, because specifically those two can work. But with this guy, I don't know. I will not build for my own collection Mesektets. If you do have some of them and you play them, let me know how it feels. But I do feel we have better options for the Egyptians about what to build. Then we go to my little favorites, the Sabah Barrage Skimmers. Those guys, well, it's very simple. You have the salvo missile silo on each and every one of them, the weapon that we've seen on the Kadesh. So 12 dices, aerial, blast, extreme range. So just having one, it's a threat, because you also have bombardment aerial. So you kind of have the same benefits as the Kadesh, which had bombardment, blast. You also have spotter. Okay, very good. And it's not finished, You also have, since you have bombardment aerial, the capacity to change your gun batteries, 2 of them, into rocket batteries for free, and then you're gonna get also rebolling on the blanks on the rocket batteries. And with the torpedo salvos, it's a ship that really knows what it wants to do. It's very simple. It wants to stay all the way to the back at long range and shoot its salvo missile silo. If you have just 2 Sabah, it's going to be 18 dices, rerolling blanks, if you target the right units, surface units. That's basically a death sentence on any mass 1 that is under this. Already very, very good. Plus the rockets that can shoot at long range, rerolling blanks, also very good. You also have spotter if you do manage to trigger this, and you have your torpedo salvo also for shooting at long range. It's a ship that really knows what it wants to do, and it does it very, very well. So I'm very happy with this guy, and 124 points is a very good deal. Probably still the best cruiser of the Egyptians, and it's very hard to handle, like to deal with this guy. Do note that you can pay 10 points for capacity 1/0 for reprise, within 20 inches in your command phase. It's very easy. Never ever buy this. I mean, I put scarabs on all of my ships because I think it looks beautiful, but just tell to your opponent what it is. Never buy the upgrade. It's expensive for nothing, and you will probably never use this from the entire game. And even if you use it, it's gonna be what, 3 dices, 6 dices. If the opponent doesn't intercept this, it's terrible. It's 10 points that you just throw in the wind. Last of the Egyptian cruisers, but not least, most expensive of them all, the Mandjet Heavy Skimmer. This guy is 2 points more expensive than the Sabah, and it's basically the Khartoum version of the cruiser. It has the Qua magnetic bombard, same capacity, bombardment magnetic, so everything we said, good for hunting enemy battleships or things that have shroud, also very true. It has heavy gun battery and 2 small gun batteries as well on top of that. Not terrible at all. Also terrible though if you buy reprise. Don't do this. You can have escorts, okay? And yeah, it does everything. It's a bit glass cannony, but I'm a bit sad that it doesn't have focused gunnery. It's not as points efficient, I would say, but it does everything. It has this extreme range firepower, and then the heavy gun battery can help at long range, and when you start to be at closing, you can add the gun batteries as well. It does everything. It's more of a glass cannon, and it might die faster because unlike the Sabah that we've seen, which will stay at extreme range and maybe long range, this guy at some point will want to be at closing, and then you're going to be vulnerable. Not a bad choice, but I'm not a super big fan. I really prefer the Sobek. Extremely good deal. The Sabah, more expensive, but it knows what it wants to do. Then third position, I would put the Mandjet, which is still fine. It's expensive if you want all the things. I know some people just like the big cruisers with all the options. It's not bad. It's not bad. It does everything quite well. It's okay. A bit expensive, a bit glass cannony for my taste, but really it's okay. And finally, you have the Mesektet, which heavy torpedo salvo on the paper, it's nice with Vanguard, but gun runner. No, I'm not a big fan. Like, I'm sorry. If you trade, let me know how it goes. But for now, I much prefer to have either the Sobek, either the Sabah, even the Mandjet, than the Mesektet. And now we go with the real stars of the Egyptian Arbat, the destroyers. The Hashashin fast destroyer used to be the best option, but now we will see the other one, the Kopesh, is quite good as well. So it's expensive. Like, it is very expensive. 43 points. It's up there in terms of destroyer prices. It has Citadel of 11, not insane at all. You might die very fast. Like, be careful if your opponent focus fires your guys, they die very fast. 3 whole points, you might be like, oh, it's okay, but Armor 5, Citadel 11, they die really fast. Even things like torpedoes, they have SDA3. Really, like just a heavy torpedo salvo, you might on the battle roll lose one of them outright. So be careful with this. They have 2 gun batteries, one to the front, one to the rear. They are very agile, so it's easy to show your flank, but be careful with that. Light broadside only, so not great, and torpedo salvo, so it can shoot from extreme range. It has gun runner that we've seen as well, and it's really like a surgical unit. It can be attached to your flagships. Okay, I'm not sure it's a great idea. If you can combo both your gun batteries and your torpedo salvo, it's okay. Etheric Lances I wouldn't recommend, because then you are an extreme glass cannon. If you put both, you're going to be 53 points for something that will just be all the way up there in terms of target priority. So yeah, maybe don't do this. You can attach it to your Abydos or and other like Tanis. Not a great idea, but all the things like Osiris, Khartoum, good idea to put in some Hashashin inside. All right. And overall, it's just a good unit. Like, yes, it's expensive, but 2 gun batteries and a real torpedo salvo for 43 points on something that can just pop over an island. It's extremely fast, speed 11, turn 9, it can just do zigzags around. And when you do this, you have gun runner. So if you have a big pack of 5, it is going to be like plus 5 dices to your main attack. I mean, okay, they are very fast, very efficient, and indeed like kind of like assassins on your enemy key units. Just be careful, they are not Temirs, they are more expensive, more maneuverable even, because they are skimmers. They do take a little bit of practice to get used to, but they are very, very efficient for the point cost and what they can do. Of course, be very careful if your enemy has blast. And then the Kopesh, which had a big boost before everybody took Hashashins. And now you have the Kopesh, which got everything good now. Still the same thing, like broadside 2 gun batteries, the same. Also can take Etheric Lances, fine. But it has a micro torpedo salvo, which only can shoot within 20 inches, and it's like 5, you can see 5.3, 5.2 torpedoes with homing, very good. It does not have gun runner though, that is sad, but it has 3 rolls that go very well together. Deceptive deployment, so you can put them first in your deployment and then redeploy them at the end. Very good capacity all the time. Plus Vanguard, and indeed you can first redeploy with deceptive deployment and then making a Vanguard move, and then you have a Minesweeper. And let's remember that you need to choose in your special operations something within 5 inches, which means that if the opponent is too aggressive with mines, and it can be really annoying sometimes, you can have those guys. Deceptive deployment, you put them in front. Vanguard, you stay next to the mine, like within 5 inches. And then you just remove it as your first activation. Extremely efficient mine clears. They don't have attached unit, but I'm not sure they need. I think a unit of 2 Kopesh is a good idea in any Sultanate list, just for this nice mine sweeping capacity, where the enemy will not know where you will put your Kopesh, and it will be very annoyed to know, like, okay, where do I put my mines? This guy can clean them very efficiently. And after this, they still have even a small unit of 2 is still 4 gun batteries, nothing to scoff at, 2 micro torpedo salvos, and some broadside. It's quite good. Either you do Hashashins, either Kopesh, both of them are good. Kopesh in small quantities, even though they don't mind being up to 5 of them. And if you want a real hunting unit, you put Hashashins as a pack of 5. Very efficient, even with the torpedo salvos and gun runner, especially when you have a big packs. But they can also absolutely be used as attached unit on your Battlecruiser, Battleskimmers. Okay, we've seen everything that you've had, and now you have the Khartoum. You bought it once, maybe you bought it twice, which is probably what I'm gonna do. And you're like, how do I expand beyond that? Well, the most logical option would be to go with the Abydos Battlefleet set. That is the obvious option. You will have the Egyptian Dreadnought, which looks a little bit different compared to all the others, including the Khartoum, but you have 3 options. The Tanis, which is my little favorite, which sends Hypris very efficiently with the portal, so a bit further away, very good. And it can trigger spotter that you have for your salvo missiles. You also have the Pharos, which is the DPS version, more fragile but so much firepower with all the lasers to the front. And finally the Abydos, the repair station. Okay for the point cost, but not my favorite either, especially now that you don't have limited munitions around. It is okay, the Abydos, but you can have the crazy cool Tanis Repli Carrier or the crazy Pharos with all the weapons. Abydos is a bit boring, it doesn't do anything really interesting for the point cost. Then you have 4 Sprue, so you're going to have, if you buy the Abydos on top, you're going to have 6 cruisers, 6 destroyers, I made a mistake, 6 destroyers and 6 Hypri Scarab tokens. 6 destroyers is good, you can absolutely have, for example, I don't know, 2 of the Hashashin to attach, even 4 of them, so you can put 2 on the Tanis or the Pharos, and then 2 on the Khartoum, let's say, and then you can have 2 Kopesh to make some minesweeping, very good. The cruisers, well, if you are a poet like me, you take 3 Sabah from the beginning, and then 3 like of the landing vessel, for example, the Sobek, but you can really mix and match very efficiently. I mean, that's a very good start for a fleet. And yeah, I cannot recommend anything else except the Abydos as the #1 if you buy the Khartoum and you don't have the Abydos yet to expand for the Egyptians. I realize I wrote Egyptians in French here, my mistake. Then the Retaj Battlefleet set I would really recommend because it goes very good with the Egyptians. The Egyptians will stay hidden turn 1. They will really wait, like as I said, behind the island before jumping. And the Retaj, if you buy it, you can have this little combo. First of all, they shoot very well at long range with their Judgment Lance if you want to, and the torpedoes and everything. So you can really stay in the back. Great. They also bring the Retaj Dark Hand because you don't have, as you have seen, you don't have Fortunes of War with the Egyptians. So the Retaj brings it to the table. It's very good. And you also have the Portal Generation, which can be very good in combination with the Tanis if you have it from the Abydos. Great. Carolus Destroyers are great, either as a pack, either attached to the Retaj. And you can really put a threat on the opponent because the Egyptians don't really usually like to be in reserve, but Retaj in reserves will really put a pressure on your opponent, knowing that this ship is going to come. Or you use the Retaj as a long-range firepower and Dark Hand from turn 1 all the way to the rear while your Egyptians are getting in position. Very good box, not very expensive, but you don't have much. You have 1 flagship and 4 cruisers, but you have so much utility out of this. It's probably the most elite flagship of the entire game, but damn, it does business. Finally, I really highly hesitated between recommending you the Sultanate starter set and the Suleiman Battlefleet set. The Suleiman is a great ship, but it's much more expensive, so I will not recommend it right away. If you have the Suleiman, you have no issue having SRS token to trigger your spotters anywhen, but Sultanate starter set is such a great deal. You have the Anatolia, which is a good battlecruiser with some good, very good named variants. The Temir frigates are great to accompany or take another flank compared to your Hashashins. Some skiff escorts, which you really enjoy in Sultanate, so it's a good source. Some SRS tokens, of course, and some great Turkish support cruisers. Of course, you can have 1 aircraft carriers, indeed with the specific role of sending SRS token to trigger your salvo missiles, even if you stay more than 40 inches with your, I think it's called Combat Air Patrol. You can absolutely do this turn 1, and because you don't use 1 aircraft carrier for damage, you use it to trigger spotter. You can absolutely do that, and I will not make a deep dive on this, but all the Turkish cruisers are quite good. They are fragile, be careful, but you have so many options with this, and you also have this very cool combo. I think it's with the Pasha, when you have a ship with Vanguard that can have a portal generator, so very good to trigger with your Tanis to put your replis on the enemy. It's a good combo. Suleiman Battlefleet set is great as well, more expensive, but you have the Suleiman and more everything. You cannot go wrong with either of those choices, and it starts to bring you to a more mixed Sultanate force, which is going to look amazing on the table. Okay, we arrived in the end. I hope you enjoyed this video and that it was informative. If it was, 3 things to do: thumbs up, the comment that allows you to win either a Conquest Dwegom army or a Union Honorable Eclipse Company Armada, aerial armada of zeppelins and everything and giant robots. It's amazing, and you can play them as mercenaries for your Sultanate if you would like that. And also subscribe, of course, if you did not subscribe yet. Join us on the Discord, Love Wargames Discord, all the way down. You can have extra chances, extra tickets to win the Dwegom or the Union armies for the contest. And yeah, I really hope that you enjoyed. I'm sorry that I was quite busy with the work for the last few weeks/months. I'm gonna try to start again the production. It was quite difficult, plus we did not have access anymore to the Majestic Games because it's Christmas around here, and we did not have the capacity to make battle reports, but we will make some more battle reports soon. I do plan to get the Khartoum painted probably in January, and then we will record a battle report quite soon after that in February. So expect to see those guys with the Abydos, of course, and everything in the battle report somewhere around March, let's say, about. Alright, thank you guys, take care of yourself, and until the next video, remember to keep things fair in love and war games. Bye!